Look at you, clutching your brokerage app like a rosary, staring at the green candles of the AI revolution and whispering prayers for a legacy that was never meant for you. You think you're witnessing the dawn of a new era, a technological leap that justifies every penny of your over-leveraged existence. But all I see from the shadow of the institutional desk is the most meticulously engineered slaughterhouse in the history of capital markets. They've sold you a dream of silicon and neural networks, branded it with a slick ticker symbol, and broadcasted it 24/7 through the megaphones of CNBC and Bloomberg until your FOMO became a physical ache in your chest. But while you're busy calculating your paper gains on NVIDIA or some second-tier semiconductor proxy, the plumbing of the global financial system is choking on its own filth. And the very AI hype you worship is nothing more than a high-frequency smokescreen designed to mask the terminal rot in commercial real estate and the systemic insolvency of the regional banking sector. The headlines scream about soft landings and productivity miracles, but that's just the anesthetic they inject before the amputation starts. The institutional framing is so perfect, so elegant, that you don't even realize you are the exit liquidity for the same firms that blew up the world in 2008 and got paid to do it. They need your 401k contributions, your retail buy orders, and your blind faith in buy the dip to hold the line while they quietly rotate into hard assets and private credit, leaving you holding a bag of overpriced code and empty promises. Every time a talking head mentions the AI supercycle, a senior partner at a Tier 1 bank laughs because they know the math doesn't work. You're being told that this is 1995 and the internet is just beginning, but the data screams that it's March of 2000 and the cliff is already under your feet. The disparity between the Magnificent Seven and the rest of the crumbling economy isn't a sign of strength. It's a symptom of a necrotic limb. When the breadth of the market is this narrow, it's not a bull market. It's a funeral procession where the coffin is lined with gold leaf. You see a breakthrough in large language models. I see a desperate attempt to inflate asset prices to offset the trillion-dollar wall of commercial debt that's about to hit the fan. The Fed isn't holding rates steady because they've conquered inflation. They're holding their breath because they know the moment they pivot, the currency collapses. And if they don't, the banking system implodes. It's a game of chicken played with your life savings as the stakes. You've been conditioned to believe that the system is built to make you wealthy over 40 years of diligent indexing. But the truth is, the system is a giant vacuum designed to suck the purchasing power out of your labor and deposit it into the vaults of the 0.01% before you even realize the dollar has lost another 10% of its soul. The sheer arrogance of the retail trader in this environment is breathtaking. You actually believe that because you can see a chart on a screen, you know what's happening in the dark pools, where 80% of the real volume moves. You're playing poker against a house that can see your cards, knows your bankroll, and controls the deck. The AI revolution is the ultimate shiny object, a psychological operation designed to keep you strapped into the roller coaster while the tracks are being dismantled a mile ahead. You think you're early to the party, but the institutional whales have been building these positions for years, and now they need a hero to buy the top so they can walk away with the cash. You are that hero, or rather, you are the sacrificial lamb dressed in a tech bull t-shirt. They talk about generative AI transforming the world, but in the back offices of the city and Wall Street, they're talking about collateral transformations and liquidity gaps that would make your blood run cold if you understood the implications. The disconnect between the S&P 500 and the reality of the American household isn't a glitch, it's the goal. As long as the index stays up, you stay quiet. Even as your rent doubles, your insurance premiums skyrocket, and the meat in your grocery cart becomes a luxury item. It's the perfect crime, stealing your future while giving you a digital dashboard that says you're winning. But the most pathetic part is your hope. That lingering, desperate belief that if you just hold on long enough, if you just DCA into the abyss, the system will eventually reward your loyalty. The system doesn't know your name, and it certainly doesn't care about your retirement. You are a data point, a unit of liquidity to be consumed when the volatility spikes. The volatility isn't risk. To the predator, volatility is the harvest, and the harvest is coming. The cracks are already visible in the overnight lending markets, in the surging delinquency rates of the invisible poor, and in the frantic way the Treasury is issuing debt just to keep the lights on. They've turned the entire U.S. economy into a giant leveraged buyout, and the assets they're stripping are your freedom and your time. While you're mesmerized by the latest AI demo, the floorboards are being sold for scrap. This isn't a cycle. It's a controlled demolition. And the AI boom is just the fireworks display meant to keep you looking up, while the ground beneath you disappears. You're not an investor. You're a bystander at a high-speed wreck, and you're currently arguing about the color of the car. It's time to stop looking at the price and start looking at the plumbing, because when the water stops flowing, the fire is the only thing left to see. Deep meat? Let's pull back the skin and look at the gangrene beneath the silicone. You're mesmerized by the capex spending of the hyperscalers, watching Microsoft and Google dump tens of billions into H100 clusters, as if that money is creating real-world value. But you're blind to the circular Ponzi scheme fueling the entire spectacle. We call it the GPU Carousel. Think about it. Venture capital firms, backed by the same giant banks that hold your mortgage, pump billions into AI startups that have no path to profitability. Those startups then turn around and hand that cash directly to NVIDIA for chips they won't fully utilize for years. NVIDIA's surging revenue then pumps the S&P 500, creating the illusion of a robust economy, which allows the banks to keep their collateral values inflated just enough to avoid a margin call on their crumbling commercial real estate portfolios. It's a closed loop of vaporware. While you're staring at a benchmark score, $3 trillion in commercial mortgage-backed securities are rotting in the heat. And the only reason the lights are still on at your local regional bank is because the Fed opened the liquidity spigots so wide, they've practically drowned the bond market. They needed a narrative to bridge the gap between the death of cheap money and the inevitable collapse of the debt-saturated real estate sector. And AI was the perfect candidate. It's the ultimate distraction, a high-tech jingle to keep you dancing while the repo man is clearing out the back room. Look at the dark pool prints if you want to see where the real conviction lies. While the retail crowd is stacking sats and buying fractional shares of tech giants at 40 times forward earnings, the smart money, the real predators, are hitting the bid on the way down in every sector that actually moves the physical world. They are liquidating. They are rotating into private credit and tail risk hedges because they see the liquidation waterfall forming on the horizon. The reverse repo facility is draining. The discount window is being tapped at levels that suggest a quiet panic behind the scenes, and the yield curve has been inverted longer than a terminal patient's flat line. You think the soft landing is real because the unemployment rate is low, but you don't see that the jobs being created are low-wage service sector ghosts, while the high-paying corporate core is being hollowed out by efficiency drives that are just code for "we can't pay our debt." They are cannibalizing the middle class to buy back their own stock, keeping the indices afloat just long enough for the C-suite to exercise their options and vanish into the Hamptons before the floor gives way. This isn't innovation. It's an extraction mission. The data horror goes deeper than just bad loans. Look at the 0-day to expiration, 0 DTE, options market, which now accounts for nearly half of the total volume. The entire stock market has been turned into a legalized casino where the house controls the volatility. The algorithms are programmed to sniff out your stop losses and hunt your liquidations. They trigger a gamma squeeze to the upside to force you into a FOMO buy at the peak, then flip the switch to dump the floor out from under you. You aren't investing in the future of technology. You are participating in a highly sophisticated algorithmic harvest. The AI revolution is simply the most effective lure ever devised because it targets your deepest insecurity. The fear of being left behind in a world where your labor is becoming obsolete. They are using your fear of the future to rob you in the present. Even as the AI models hallucinate, the financial models are doing the exact same thing, pricing in infinite growth on a planet with finite resources and a consumer base that is tapped out on credit cards and buy now, pay later schemes. You want a smoking gun? Look at the correlation between Nvidia's stock price and the widening spreads in high-yield corporate bonds. They are moving in opposite directions for the first time in a decade. The plumbing of the credit market is screaming that a systemic cardiac arrest is imminent, yet the tech sector continues to defy gravity. This divergence is the hallmark of a blow-off top, a final desperate surge before the gravity of debt reasserts itself. The institutions know the Magnificent Seven can't carry the entire world on their back forever. They are waiting for the moment when the last retail skeptic finally gives in and buys the call option. That is the signal to pull the plug. When the liquidity vanishes, it won't be a slow decline. It will be a silent crash, where the bid-ask spreads widen to the point of total paralysis, and you'll find yourself locked out of your own wealth, while the big desks settle their trades in the dark. You are being led into a digital corral, and the gate is already starting to creak shut behind you, leaving only the cold reality of a system that has outlived its own lies. The verdict is already written in the ledgers you aren't allowed to see, and it reads like a death warrant for the middle-class dream. You sit there checking your portfolio, feeling a fleeting sense of superiority because you bought the AI narrative. But you're just a passenger on a plane where both engines have already flamed out, and the pilot is currently paragliding to safety with your pension as his parachute. This is the moment where the ghost protocol kicks in, where the lights flicker, and you finally realize that long-term investing in a rigged casino is just a slow-motion robbery. You've been told to stay the course, to trust the indices, to believe that a 4% withdrawal rate will keep you fed in a world where the currency is being debased faster than they can print the new era headlines. But look at the math, if you still have the stomach for it. The cost of maintaining the illusion is now exceeding the total tax revenue of the most powerful empire in history. The interest on the national debt is a black hole that is swallowing every productive dollar. And the only way to keep the gravity from crushing the banking system is to inflate the AI bubble until it's thin enough to see through. They aren't trying to build a better future. They are trying to liquidate the present before the check bounces. Your buy and hold strategy is the ultimate gift to the institutions. It provides the steady, predictable flow of capital they need to dump their toxic assets onto your balance sheet. While you're hodling through the volatility, they are using high-frequency algorithms to skim the cream off every trade, leaving you with the sour dregs of a saturated market. They've weaponized your hope. They've taken your desire for a better life for your children and turned it into a psychological tether that keeps you invested in a terminal system. If you want to survive the coming cold execution, you have to stop thinking like a victim and start recognizing the predator's geometry. The wealth you see on your screen is a digital hallucination that can be deleted the moment the liquidity providers decide to step away from the bid. We saw it in the flash crashes. We saw it in the repo crisis of 2019. And we are seeing the tremors of it now in the yen carry trade and the fracturing of the global dollar hegemony. The AI gods won't save you when the margin calls start coming in for the banks that are currently underwater on trillion-dollar commercial real estate bets. Stop looking for a hero in a suit. The Fed isn't your friend. The Treasury isn't your protector, and the CEO of that semiconductor company doesn't care if you lose your house, as long as his quarterly bonus clears. You are standing on the tracks of a macro domino effect that started decades ago and is only now reaching its terminal velocity. The first domino was the death of sound money. The second was the financialization of everything you touch. And the final domino is this: the total psychological capture of the retail investor through the promise of infinite technological growth. When this bubble pops, it won't just take your capital. It will take your faith in the reality of the market itself. You will wake up to find that the blue chips you trusted have been hollowed out from the inside, replaced by debt-laden shells that exist only to service their interest payments. The great rotation isn't coming to save you. It's coming to harvest the last remaining pockets of value before the system resets into a digital enclosure, where you own nothing and your assets are merely permissions granted by a central server. Survival requires a level of cynicism that most of you aren't prepared for. It means cutting the umbilical cord to the mainstream narrative and realizing that the most dangerous thing you can own right now is a consensus opinion. Every person who told you that AI is different this time is the same person who told you the housing market was contained in 2007. They are paid to keep you in the pen until the processing plant is ready. If you want to walk away with anything left, you have to be willing to kill your darlings, to sell the winners that everyone else is chasing, and to realize that cash isn't trash when the entire world is about to go on a forced fire sale. The silence you hear in the markets right now isn't peace. It's the vacuum that forms before an explosion. The institutions are already at the exits, whispering to each other in a language of basis points and swaps, while they keep the music playing for you at maximum volume. The execution is silent, it is professional, and it is absolute. You can stay in the room and wait for the lights to go out, or you can find the door before the stampede begins. But don't expect a warning, and don't expect mercy. The system was never designed to save you. It was designed to consume you. And right now, you look like a very appetizing final meal. So here we are, standing at the edge of the final precipice, watching the sun set on the era of easy lies and artificial intelligence hallucinations. You followed the breadcrumbs of hype all the way to the slaughterhouse door, and now you're looking back, wondering why no one told you the floor was made of glass. But that's the beauty of the institutional machine. It doesn't need to force you to jump. It just needs to make the air feel so thin that the fall looks like a relief. You think you're holding on to the future because you've got a piece of the AI pie. But in reality, you're just holding a ticket to a theater that's already on fire. The psychological execution is complete. You've been conditioned to fear the sidelines more than the abyss, to believe that being out of the market is a greater sin than being wiped out by it. They've successfully weaponized your own survival instincts against you, turning your natural caution into a shameful weakness called missing out. But as the liquidity evaporates and the dark pools begin to drain into the systemic cracks of a failing global order, that shame is going to turn into a very real, very cold terror. The transition from the AI dream to the macro nightmare is happening in the shadows, where you refuse to look. While you're debating the parameters of the next transformer model, the global shadow banking system is undergoing a massive deleveraging event that makes 2008 look like a rehearsal. The banks have already shifted their toxic commercial real estate exposure into private credit vehicles, hidden from public scrutiny and your precious regulatory watchdogs. They've repackaged the rot and sold it back to your pension funds and insurance companies under the guise of stable yield. It's the same old trick with a new high-tech paint job. The AI narrative was the perfect solvent to dissolve your critical thinking. It promised a world where debt doesn't matter because productivity will grow to infinity. But productivity doesn't pay back $1 trillion in maturing office loans when the buildings are half empty and the interest rates are triple what they were at the time of issuance. The math is a blunt instrument, and it's about to strike the center of your world. Look at the faces of the people on the street. They aren't talking about neural scaling laws. They're talking about the price of eggs and the fact that their credit card interest is now a second mortgage. That is the reality that the Magnificent Seven index weighting is hiding from you. You've been living in a curated simulation where the top 0.1% of companies define your perception of the economy, while the underlying foundation is being eaten away by stagflation and systemic insolvency. The Fed's balance sheet is a crime scene that they're trying to clean up with a dirty rag, and the AI revolution was the loud music they played to drown out the sound of the scrubbing. But the music is fading now. The revenue misses are starting to leak through the cracks, and the massive capex they promised would change the world is being revealed for what it always was: a desperate, final attempt to capital intensify a dying business cycle. They built a cathedral of silicon on a swamp of debt, and the ground is finally starting to give way. What comes next isn't a correction or a healthy pullback. It's a total revaluation of what it means to own an asset in a world of crumbling trust. The Ghost Protocol isn't just a strategy for the elite. It's the inevitable state of the market when the exit doors are smaller than the crowd. You'll see the limit down signs, and you'll wait for a bounce that never comes, because the algorithms that pushed the market up on zero volume will be the same ones that gap it down on infinite volume. You'll realize, far too late, that the diversification you were promised by your financial advisor was just a way to ensure you were exposed to every single point of failure. The indices you trusted are nothing more than concentrated bets on a handful of companies that are now the only thing standing between the global banking system and total collapse. When they fail, and they will, because no company can outrun the death of its currency, there will be no safe haven left in the digital world. So, go ahead. Keep refreshing your app. Keep telling yourself that you're a visionary for buying the top of a 3-year vertical move. The predators have already moved on to the next phase. They're buying gold, they're buying land, and they're buying the very infrastructure that you'll have to rent from them just to survive the next decade. They've traded your paper wealth for real power, and they did it with your enthusiastic consent. The AI revolution will indeed change the world, but not in the way the brochures promised. It will be the tool used to manage the decline, to automate the austerity, and to track the remaining scraps of your wealth as they are harvested by the system. You weren't invited to the future. You were just asked to fund it. Now that the funding is complete, your presence is no longer required. Survive or don't. The system has already calculated its move, and you aren't even a variable in the equation anymore. It's your choice now. Wake up and walk away with what's left of your soul. Or stay strapped in and watch the screen until it finally goes black. Either way, the house is done playing.